One of the terms that I'm interested in looking at, or words I suppose, is the term understanding. What does it mean to understand something? What kind of a status does that phrase have? Is it an expression of a psychological state? Is it an expression of a relationship between our knowledge and some kind of other truth statement made about the world? You know, what's that mean? And I'm starting to think about that right now in terms of some of the stuff I've been reading recently and I've made videos about relating to belief. Particularly those two models of belief that I mentioned in a previous video coming out of that Gendler stuff. What she calls A-leaf and B-leaf, or what elsewhere are called intuitive beliefs and reflective beliefs. A-leafs or intuitive beliefs are the beliefs that are felt. They're kind of felt to be self-evident, you might say. And B-leafs are ones that you have to reflect on. That you secure evidence from the external world, perhaps, or you think about them. And they're explicit. You can speak out, and in relatively clear language, beliefs or reflective beliefs. Sometimes the intuitive beliefs, the A-leafs, are a bit more tacit, a bit more implicit, harder to put into words. Come on, peeps. But I'm thinking about that structure and how something like understanding fits into that structure. And I think if I was going to develop that, one way I might think about doing that is to posit the idea that understanding is a process by which a B-leaf becomes an A-leaf, or a reflective belief, a statement, an explicit statement about something that may be true in the world, is transformed into a set of bodily responses, a set of intuitions, so that is felt to be true, to at least some extent. You know, because I don't know if you get this experience, but when I come to understand something, it's different to just being in possession with the facts, isn't it? You know, I can possess all kinds of facts about something, and it still feels kind of out there somehow, you know. But when I understand it, I feel something click, and the click is I experience as a kind of movement inwards, it's an embodied thing, you know what I mean? That all right, get it, realise it, all those kind of phrases. So as I say, it feels more like my intuition's coming into line with my reflective capacities on some idea. Now, it may be that some things just never can achieve that. Richard Feynman, the physicist, is famous for saying that if you understand quantum mechanics, then you don't understand quantum mechanics. And what I think he's getting at with that is that, yes, of course, quantum mechanics, I don't know much about quantum mechanics at all, obviously, but I think what he's saying is that whilst it's perfectly possible to gather all the facts about your particular area of quantum mechanics, you can understand the equations and you can do the math and you can work the machinery, but it's always going to be out there, he says. I think he's hinting at, because it speaks to a world and a way of operations and a set of processes out there which don't have correlates in our understanding at our scale of operation. So we're never going to get that, I think, is the implication. In fact, what I think he's kind of also implying is that if you do kind of get it, if you do understand it, if you are able to transform those kind of abstract, distanced, highly object-like artifacts, those facts of quantum mechanics, if you are able to transform those into a felt response, and that feeling of understanding, then you're probably doing it wrong. You're probably dealing with the wrong kinds of facts, or you're interpreting them in the wrong way, or you're applying a metaphor which outruns the data, that kind of thing. And maybe the same is true with some of the consciousness stuff. I think again that's what Colin McGinn and people are talking about, the Mysterions, when they're saying that something like consciousness exists at the other side of a conceptual gap, a gap of comprehension. While we can gather all kinds of knowledge about it, it may be that we can never transform that knowledge into a felt response. Make that journey from a belief, a set of reflective statements on objective fact, transform that into an A-leaf, an intuitive, felt, embodied response, which as I say, that transformation representing something like understanding. We may be able to. You know, what I suggested in a previous video about the soft machine is that one of the functions of things like literature, poetry, the arts generally, metaphor, analogy, symbol, you know, those kind of things, might be to at least help to bridge that gap between the abstract world of objective facts or the objective world of abstract ideas to something more felt. And you certainly see that. I mean, in education, you know, in a lot of textbooks, they'll quite often use, you know, illustrations, which are, you know, are very close to being artworks in many cases, that have that sense of, that have that metaphorical quality. You know, you'll see pictures trying to get people to understand what evolution is by showing, you know, what looks like a comic strip of an animal evolving. Of course, it just compresses that whole process, which takes thousands of millions of years, compresses that down into 6 frames. And look at this dog, a little bit of a standoff here. Let's see. Phoebe's very friendly with dogs now, though. Yeah. Yeah, hello. Come on, Phoebe. Oh, sorry to have the interruption. You know, you get those illustrations which compress millions of years of evolution into 6 frames of an animal, as if it's the same animal doing that, because that's human scale. It's kind of incorrect, scientifically speaking, but it's correct enough to allow the grasp of our human scale minds to hold on to and give us some understanding. You know, transform that belief into an air leaf, transform that reflective thought about how natural selection works into an intuitive grasp of, of that sense, really. Anyway, that's all I'm thinking about really right now. Still, just to recap, beliefs, 2 kinds of them, one of which is kind of distanced, reflective, explicit, able to be put into propositions and words. And then this other one, which is much more embodied, internal, perhaps tacit, much more difficult to put into words, a felt sense. And the passage from the one to the other may be being understood as this term understanding. Thanks very much. Just a little addendum to what I've been saying about understanding. Of course, there's that famous hymn, isn't there, about God be in my mouth and in my speaking, which I think ends with God be in my heart and in my understanding, which for me kind of leads back to that stuff I talked about right at the beginning of this series, where you know, people who have a religious persuasion, evangelicals, have that difficult task of trying to translate the reflective ideas as presented in Scripture, and which they sign up to through their statements of creedal acceptance, trying to transform that into the felt sense of God's presence in their lives. God be in my understanding. God be in my heart and in my understanding. It's almost like a really concrete wish that all those facts, please be in here, please live in me as a felt sense. Anyway, that'll do.